So good morning. Welcome to the first day of HCPS College and Career Boot Camp. My name is Jennifer Crowder. I'm the career counselor at Patrick Henry High School. We're very excited to have you with us today. I'm going to go ahead and make sure everybody can see my screen. I'm going to turn my camera off, but I'm going to introduce my colleagues here shortly. So we're excited to have you with us today, and we're looking forward to today's events. Our hope is that this helps bring to focus your planning for life after high school. We're going to give you a lot of information this week, so please ask questions. We are here to help you, so please feel free to ask us any questions today or in any of the upcoming sessions. There will be many events and programs and meetings throughout the year for our students and families, and we're starting today with this kickoff and diving into College 101. While we won't get into every single detail of the college application process today, we will set up a strong foundation for what's to come and how to get started and share some important tips. Just as a reminder, this session will be recorded. And if you have any questions, please type them in the chat and we will answer them at the end. So, I'd like to introduce the 4 career counselors that we have today. We're very fortunate to have a career counselor at every high school. Career counselors host numerous programs and events throughout the year, and our job is really to support students in their college and career planning. We are an extension of the school counseling team, and we're here to support students working alongside their caseload school counselor. We visit students in their classroom each year for career lessons, and we hold individual meetings with students to help support them in their individual needs. So we have at Mechanicsville High School, we have Allison Bolander. As I said, I'm Jennifer Crowder. I'm at Patrick Henry High School. We have Amy Couillard at Atlee High School and Jennifer Melton at Hanover High School. So for this week, here is our schedule. Monday through Wednesday, we will hold a session at 10 a.m. and we're going to focus on the college application aspect. In the afternoon, we will release the recording of this morning's session as well as some career resources. We look forward to seeing everyone in person on Thursday for our College and Career Expo, where we will have recruiters from colleges, business partners, and various military branches. For the second year, we will have an in-person presentation for our parents about launching their students into adulthood. We held this session last year for the very first time, and many parents found this very helpful to kind of get them thinking about what they needed to do to prepare their child to leave. We're also going to have a Common App session that'll be held on Thursday as well. We're going to host that in person, and that will be for seniors to create and get started on their Common application. Just so you know, the Common App opens on August 1st. So we're going to hold it. You will have that session that day so that they can start their application and just ask any questions. We'll walk students through creating the account and filling out some of the sections that sometimes can be challenging and address any questions that they might have. So just to review again, the schedule for the week, we're doing the kickoff today with College 101. Tuesday will be the financial aid and scholarships with our GRASP representative. Wednesday, we're very fortunate to have an admissions officer from Christopher Newport University who will be talking to us about the college essay writing process and what they're looking for. And then, as I said, Thursday, we'll have 2 in-person sessions at Hanover High School. One will be in the library, and that will be the Common App session for seniors. And that'll be at 9:30. And then also at 9:30 is a transition to adulthood for parents in the auditorium. And then at 10 o'clock, from 10 to 12, we have our College and Career Expo, which will be held in the Hanover High School Commons. Again, there'll be college, business, and military representatives that you can talk to answer any questions and also help you kind of with the planning process. So before we start our presentation, we wanted to highlight 2 resources that families have in addition to their school counselor and their career counselor to help support them through their post-secondary planning process. The first is our College and Career Center website. Last year, we shifted from having the old senior handbook that was accessible, but was difficult to navigate. So we put together this College and Career Center website, which is accessible to all families. This is linked on Schoology, it's on our students' class link, and it's on every high school's website as well. So students have three options when they graduate from high school. They can enroll in further education, and that can either be a college or university, a two-year college, or a trade program. They can enlist in the military, or they can gain employment. And you'll notice that there are tabs at the top that focus on each pathway, as in addition to a tab focusing on scholarships and financial aid. Families can access a timeline for each year of high school, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, and what students should be focusing on each year as they approach graduation. You'll also find information on standardized testing, visiting college campuses, college essays, NAACP, NCAA, and the college organizer that can be great for juniors and seniors as they research and apply to colleges. Ms. Melton has linked the bit.ly in the chat. If you'd like to click on it, you can access it there. You'll also notice a tab for careers, noting that many programs we offer each year, as well as a new database that we are creating that includes trade schools. So there's a lot of information that can be found on this website. We also have a tab that's dedicated for military options, which includes enlisting, enrolling in a college ROTC program, or pursuing a service academy. Finally, we have a tab that has helpful information about scholarships and financial aid. And we'll talk more about that tomorrow at our 10 a.m. financial aid and scholarship session. So, new this year, we are very excited to share that Hanover County has a new college and career platform starting in the 2024-2025 school year. We have moved away from Major Clarity, and we are using School Links. So all students in grades 6 through 12 will be introduced to this tool in the next few months by their school career counselor. But in particular, for students this year, we will use this tool to communicate with their school counselor where they're applying to colleges, and this will also be where they'll be ordering transcripts for colleges. It'll all be done through School Links. Students will have access to some great tutorials to help them explore the college application process. For example, a video explaining the difference between SATs and ACTs, as well as a unit to explore military options. We will begin introducing this to our seniors at the very beginning of the school year. So here are some of the things that students will do over the course of high school in School Links. Activities are scaffolded with middle school and underclassmen. So they're exploring careers, taking assessments to discover their best fit career options and other things. So you can see on here, there units talking about applying to colleges, whether it's 4-year or 2-year, planning for the military, as well as units for employability skills. They can do some self-discovery activities as well, including personality types and learning styles, and also a really useful tool with campus lifestyle. Underclassmen will have access to, upperclassmen will have access to scholarships as well through School Links, and a helpful checklist for activities to focus on in their final year of high school. Now, I'm going to turn the presentation over to Amy Couillard from Atlee, and we're going to start digging into the College 101 information.
Thanks, Jen. Okay, so today we're going to talk a little bit, or on this slide, we're going to talk a little bit about the pathways to a bachelor's degree. As Mrs. Crowder said, certainly their, bachelor's degree is not the only route for our students, but we're going to talk about that specifically today. And so you can see that there's, different routes to get there. Some students choose the traditional 4-year college route, 4-year college or university. Other students will find that starting at community college is a good route for them, either financially or because of their class sizes, or just because it's like in their life the right time to do that. And so we have a couple of great options right around Richmond area, the Reynolds Community College, as well as Richard Bland Community College of William and Mary. Both of those are great options for our students. Richard Bland has on-campus living. So some of our students would choose that route to get sort of that 4-year college experience, even while doing a 2-year college. Also, the military is a great option for some of our students who want to pursue a bachelor's degree, but want to do it at lower cost or at no cost. And then there's a lot of opportunity for students to get hired on at an by an employer, and then to use that employer opportunity to go and learn and get their degree from that. We also wanted to point out that we've got this G3 program information here on the bottom. And that is through Reynolds Community College, and it's a state initiative for tuition assistance for students whose family meet a certain criteria within their income, like a family income. And those students are eligible to participate at the Virginia community colleges in high needs areas. So things like early childhood education, healthcare, information technology, public safety, skills trades, things like that. And they can do that at almost no cost to them. So this is a great option for some of our students who may fall into that category. So it's also important to be thinking about what students want to study, and so kind of how to determine that. We have a lot of students that will come into school and they have a plan from the time that they were 5 years old. They knew that they wanted to do this or that, but it's not uncommon for students to change their mind as they're going through their schooling years and find that maybe their interests aren't the same anymore. And so some of the things to do to kind of help figure out what might be a good fit for you is to reflect on your academic and extracurricular strengths over the past 3 or 4 years. What are you good at, right? What are you already naturally good at? That's something to look into when you're trying to decide what career you might want to go into. We have school links as an option as well. So our students had previously used Major Clarity. We will be doing these personality assessments and things like that again with them through school links. So right now they don't really have any data in school links, but they will have that there. And then job shadowing is also a great option, either doing that with family or friends. And then process of elimination, kind of just going through what works, what doesn't work, and then exploring different options while you're at college. Some schools will be like a liberal arts kind of school, will give you the opportunity to take different classes in different areas to see what might be the best option for you. And we want to reiterate that it's okay if you don't really know exactly what you want to study right now. It is not uncommon for students to be in that situation at this time. But you do want to kind of use these. These are just some good ideas to kind of get started as to what might be a good option for you. So you'll see here that we have this Pathfinder, and what we like about this is just a great screenshot of kind of a roadmap of the application process. And so you'll see that the first thing that you want to do is research, and you can see there's a lot of different things that you're going to be paying attention to, and we'll talk more about that on some future slides. But doing your research is important. And then once you find some schools that maybe fit your needs, or maybe you've heard about them through friends or family, or whatever it is that gets you to where you're like, okay, this is a school I'm interested in. You want to go and explore that school, doing as much as you can to actually visit that school. And I'll talk more about college visits in a moment, but looking at what they offer. Do they offer clubs and organizations that you're interested in? Do they have a strong alumni network? Are they, supportive of your needs, whether that be first generation college student, or whether it be, just if you're interested in doing like a honors program or something like that. So just making sure that you're looking at all of those things. And then once you've found some schools that fit your needs, then you'll want to apply to those schools. And you'll see here again a list of things that are going to happen through that application process. And we'll talk more about that on future slides. But then once you apply, it's still your choice, right? I think sometimes our students get real hung up on, oh, I've just got to get into this school. And once I get in, but you still have choices to make after you get accepted to colleges. And so that's looking at things like the cost, looking at what your financial aid package is and what money you've received from that school. So there's still some choices to be made even after you've applied and been accepted to school. And then lastly, you're going to want to hone in on the things at that school. So once you've made your decision and you've gone to that school, you're going to want to go and visit, participate in all of their welcoming activities and getting, kind of engaged with any sort of campus activities and staff. So preparation is really important. We talk all the time about, doing well in classes, but it's not just grades. You want to make sure that you are engaged in your classes. Hopefully you've been doing this if you're a student on here. Hopefully you've been doing this all along. That way you have teachers who are in your corner, maybe some advisors or, club advisors or athletics and things like that, some people that really know you and can speak to you and how you are as a student. So doing well in classes doesn't just mean grades, which is very important, but also being engaged, being somebody who has a positive working relationship with your students. These probably seem really obvious, but not only do colleges want to see a strong grades and rigorous courses, but they want to see that a student has important life skills, things like self-advocacy, independence, and resilience. These qualities will be shown through your teacher and counselor recommendations as well as your student essay. Reflection might seem like a step that you can skip over, but don't do that. You want to definitely reflect on the college process and making sure that that you're reflecting so that the process doesn't feel overwhelming and become a burden. Doing this now and kind of thinking through will be helpful. It helps with writing your college essay, and then also interacting with your with the counselors at the schools. It's very important. So this is an important step. If there's any juniors that are on here listening, we want to make sure that you hear this as well, right? Doing well in classes and making those connections, not just important for our seniors, it's an important part of all of your high school experience. So you'll hear a lot about fit when it comes to colleges. So there's academic fit. This is where you're looking for a school that maybe fits your needs based on your academics. Perhaps it's a program that you know is really strong and that you're interested in being a part of. Maybe it's class sizes. You don't want to be lost in a school that has really, really large class sizes. Perhaps it could be that you're looking for something that's got, the opportunity to study abroad, which most schools do now, but for some students, that's very important to them to have the opportunity to study in different parts of the world. So, do some reflections on the academic fit. Then there's also that personal fit, a school that aligns with your thoughts, maybe your religious beliefs, maybe your spiritual beliefs. It could be related to, the climate in general, feeling like that you fit in. Are you comfortable there? One of my favorite stories to tell is about a student who came to Atlee every day wearing WVU outfit, that he was going there, he didn't care, and he's at UVA, right? So sometimes what you think is the perfect fit doesn't end up being the perfect fit for you. So getting on campus and really figuring out what fits you as a person, not just all of these other things. And then obviously academic is financial fit is a very important part of this process. So paying for school it's a commitment. And we want to make sure that students understand that, and parents understand that some colleges do not give you 100% of the financial need that you have. And what that means is some schools will give you money to cover any gap that you as the family might have when it comes to what you can contribute. But other schools won't. And so knowing that ahead of time is really important. But these are 3 different fits that we would like for you guys to think about when you're thinking about picking a school. So where to start that college search? So here are some great options for you. Hopefully, School Links is new to everybody, but hopefully you guys will be able to use that and be really comfortable with that towards the end. But I bet most of you guys have probably heard of Big Future before. That is something that's sponsored by College Board, and a lot of the counselors I know in the county use this as a great place, kind of a jumping off spot for students to kind of look into that fit that we were talking about. But you can build a list and then do all kinds of exploration there. You can also see that there's the American Institute for Architecture is listed there, and it's got all different kinds of schools that you could go to. There's also, if you're interested in pursuing ROTC or something with the Naval Academy or through the Navy, the Army, or the Air Force, you could do that through their website. So also searching all of those different places are a great place to see about ROTC programs, or just if you're interested in the military in general, you can certainly look there as well. Now we're going to talk about that actual visit that I mentioned earlier. I can't express to you enough how important it is to get onto a college campus if at all possible. We understand that, maybe if you're applying to a college on the West Coast, it's not as easy to get over there as it would be if you were to take a day trip on to some Virginia schools. But if at all possible, getting on campus is going to be really important. This gives you the opportunity to see the surroundings, not just the campus itself. If you do a virtual tour, which is a great option, before you go, but you're only going to see the pretty parts of campus. They're only going to show you the most diverse group of people. There's usually a Frisbee in the picture or some fountain or something that's really pretty and makes people think, oh, look, everybody's outside and having a great time. They don't show you the picture of the blustering wind and the person bundled up hiking across, a huge hill. So you want to get on campus if possible. But if you end up not being able to and you do the virtual tours, just know that maybe do some research outside of what the school itself has put out there. And if you're someone who's really into city life, you want to know that you're attending a school that's going to provide you with the opportunity to get out and explore and such, whereas there are schools that are, just college towns. So again, getting out there and seeing what's available to you. Once you're on campus, you want to learn about the clubs and the organizations that they have. You want to be able to see any housing that they may have, going actually looking at the dorms, taking an actual, going through the admissions office to do a formal visit is really highly recommended. Financial aid, you can learn about that. You can see the student body. First generation support, that's something that we want to point out, for some of our students who are first generation college students, having that support can be really, really really beneficial. And as I said, if you aren't able to get on campus, Big Future does have some great information to kind of help you prepare for that college visit, questions to ask, things that you should do ahead of time. So there are different types of colleges. There's private versus public. So for example, VCU versus Randolph-Macon. Both great schools, offer different things. And then there's, VCU is a public school, Randolph-Macon is a private school. A lot of times financially, people are very worried about private schools, but we find that a lot of private schools can be very competitive with their finances. So just don't rule out a school based on public versus private from the jump. If you find out that it's not going to be the best thing for you, that's okay. But definitely get out there and look at the different options. Liberal arts schools, as I mentioned earlier, they're going to have you doing some exploration through lots of different areas. You're not just going to go and do just your science classes. You're going to be taking a little bit of everything to get some exposure to various things. These are great options for students who aren't certain what they want to do. As I mentioned, that rural versus suburban versus urban campus. If I'm somebody who loves the culture in a city, I might have a hard time going to a small college town. Or if I'm someone who's really uncomfortable in the city, I might not want to go to a school that's in the middle of a big city. So keeping that in mind. Service academies are a great option. We do have men's and women's colleges, and those are actually really great for some students. Sometimes people feel more comfortable being in a class of people of the same gender. We also have HBCUs. So those are, Virginia State is pretty close here. And then there's Howard. And then there's also Hispanic Serving Institute, and then tribal colleges and universities. So these are all different types of universities that you may want to think about when you're looking into which college might be the best option for you. And I think I'm passing it over, aren't I, to Ms. Melton now. And she's going to pick up from here.
Thank you, Amy. So if you haven't kind of caught already, there's just a lot of information that's out there. Our intention is not to overwhelm you, but just kind of help you begin thinking about some of the resources that you have to help you through this process. But one of the best things to do is to think about, how can I be organized? How can I collect all of this information and put it in a place that it's going to help me navigate this application process? So I'm actually putting in the chat right now. Sorry, one second. And the link in the chat to our college application organizer. So again, lots of information. You might want to think about which method is best for you, but this is a great tool to help you start. If you're a junior, this is where you can collect all of the information. If you've visited colleges, college campuses, or talked with colleges either at your high school or at our expo coming up this week, where do you put all of that information that it's going to actually help you when it's time to make a decision on where to apply, but also think about all of those different types of applications that you might have. So if you go to that website, you're able to download and make a copy of that, and again, adjust it for any way that works for you. So next is, how exactly do colleges make decisions? And I think Amy alluded to this a little bit earlier when she's talking about certain colleges that students are interested in. This is a great chart. Every year, the National Association for College Admissions Counseling collects data directly from colleges, asking them what types of things are you looking for when you're reviewing your applications. Now, every single college is going to be different in how they do that. But the most important factor is, for every college, is going to be the high school academic record. So you see at the top, you see grades in college prep courses, the total high school grades. What's the strength of that academic curriculum or their high school curriculum? And what that means is, with what is offered at your assigned high school, what was the rigor of the courses that you took? And then notice the next thing is positive character attributes. This is going to come through between the student's essay, so all of their writing. It's going to come through in teacher recommendations, and it's going to come through in counselor recommendations. Colleges are trying to create a class or craft a class of students who have all kinds of different perspectives, who are going to engage on campus. And so they're going to be looking at, what are the different signs within that application that demonstrates that they have positive character attributes. Now, if you keep looking at that list, you might notice that there's something that you would expect would be a factor in admissions, but it isn't listed. Can you take a minute and look, is there anything you think might be missing? So some of the things we often hear from parents: class rank, standardized testing, none of those are listed right here at the top. So they actually go a little bit farther down. Part of this has to do with the test optional movement, but also with the pandemic. So it just kind of gives you a good idea of what matters to colleges when they're making recommendations. Now, the one thing Amy mentioned earlier, she was talking about community colleges, specifically that G3 program that's great at all community colleges in the state of Virginia. For community college, they're simply looking for, did a student graduate from high school? It's a very different process. So another piece of data from that survey is looking at college acceptance rates. So applying to college might raise concerns. It's, I think, perfectly natural for a student or a family to wonder, will I be admitted? However, it's important to note that the average acceptance rate to colleges in the United States has actually increased. 10 years ago, the average acceptance rate was 68% for public colleges and 64% for private colleges. Today, that has increased almost 10 percentage points to 78% for public colleges, and it's increased about 5 percentage points for private. The key is to research each college thoroughly for their admission requirements, the culture of the school, and apply to schools that are a best fit. Those concepts of fit that Amy was talking about a moment ago. So what exactly is in a college application? And again, this might vary slightly depending on a college, but let's talk about this in general. First, very obvious, the application. The majority of our students are applying to colleges using something called the Common App. There are hundreds of colleges across the United States, even across Europe and Canada, that will accept the Common App. Other schools want you to apply directly to their school. So Georgetown University, for example, has their own application. Also, a lot of HBCUs are part of the Common Black application. What's in an application? Your general personal information. Filling out the application itself is actually really straightforward. Students might need to sit with their parent or guardian to add some information. The part that takes a little more time is the essay. So for the Common App specifically, there is a general personal essay, and then a student, depending on the colleges that they're applying to, might have additional or supplementary essays. And then the other part of the application is activities. And there are some great tips that school counselors can have for students on how to complete that section. Another component is the high school transcript. So we mentioned earlier that beginning this school year, students will order that transcript within school links to be sent to colleges. However, it's also important to point out that, especially as a result of the pandemic, some colleges have made it, well, they feel easier to submit their courses and grades without having to send a transcript. So for example, if you're familiar with Virginia Tech, there are a number of colleges across the country, including Tech, that ask for something called the SRAR, sometimes SRAR, which is the self-reported academic record. And that's when a student goes in and enters their own courses, grades that they've received. If a college requires that, they will actually tell you that when you're applying. The next items you'll notice have an asterisk next to them. Teacher recommendations, counselor recommendations, standardized testing. Again, this is going to vary depending on the school. Some colleges do not want any recommendations at all. They won't even allow you to send them. Some colleges might want one teacher. They might want two teachers. They might want a counselor. Again, going back to that organizer that I referenced earlier, that's a great place to start when you're doing your research to kind of gather all of that information. Also with standardized testing, as a result of the pandemic, a lot of colleges stopped requiring standardized testing. In the state of Virginia, we're still seeing that the majority of colleges do not require testing. However, there are some places that have kind of moved now. They're slowly shifting back to those requirements. Our website has a little more information on that. But again, if you need to know specifically what a school's testing policy is, please go directly to their website to find that. And then the final item is the FAFSA. That's the free application for federal student aid. We'll talk a lot about that tomorrow in our session. But that is the way that students qualify for any type of financial aid. Some colleges even require students to complete that if they want to be considered for any type of scholarships. So back to that lovely idea of standardized testing. So when we say standardized testing, we're talking about College Board's SAT, or we're talking about the ACT. These are now moving to kind of digital online tests, a little bit different than when we took it. The pandemic again ignited this test optional movement. And as I said, the majority of colleges are test optional. These policies are going to vary. Some schools have something called test blind. So if you're used to, or if you're familiar with the University of California system, they are test blind. They will not review scores at all. Again, doing your research is important. As I mentioned earlier, in the last year, there have been some colleges returning to requiring standardized testing. Some examples: public universities in Georgia, public universities in Tennessee, military academies, also some of those more selective colleges like MIT, Brown, etc. So for a lot of students, we recommend it might be wise to go ahead and take an SAT or an ACT, review your results, and then make that choice later on whether or not you actually want to submit them to your college. For juniors, we recommend you start testing in second semester of 11th grade. We recommend choosing one of these tests, either the SAT or the ACT, to focus on, as opposed to trying to attempt to take both of them. Many students will probably take a test 2, maybe 3 times. That's perfectly normal. Another thing to note is that in Virginia, Virginia code or state law requires that if you take an SAT or ACT, these scores must be put on your high school transcript. Keep in mind, if you're thinking about applying to a college test optional, you might not want those scores on your transcript. So if there's a chance you might apply to a school test optional, you can go to your school counseling office and request a form to have them removed from your transcript. Once completing that form, it'll take up to maybe 2 weeks for the high school transcript to be updated. So keep that in mind when planning. Choosing to remove scores from the transcript can give you a little more control over whether or not you want a college to see your scores. It's also important to remember that a lot of colleges will also allow you to self-report your scores on your actual application. And so you don't always have to pay for official scores to arrive. But again, check with each school. All right, so application decision plans. You've probably heard of some of these words before. We're going to go through and kind of talk about each of them. Every college does not have all of these application decision plans, or sometimes we might call them application deadlines. So ED, which is early decision 1 typically happens in November. It is a binding decision, meaning if a student applies to that college, they must attend. You can only apply to one college early decision. Those decisions are typically released in December or January. If you're looking at some colleges outside of Virginia, you might hear something called restrictive early action. That's kind of another version. It is not a binding decision if you're accepted, but it means you can't apply early decision elsewhere. Some families ask, if I apply early, will that increase my chances of admission? The answer is maybe. If you are a competitive applicant, meaning if you look at that college's past application history and you are comparable to students who have been admitted before, then yes, it probably will help your chances. However, if I'll talk about JMU, for example. JMU wants to see that a student has taken math beyond Algebra 2 and taken a math beyond Algebra 2 where Algebra 2 is a prerequisite. If you haven't met that threshold, if maybe you're a senior taking Algebra 2, then applying early decision isn't necessarily going to increase your chances because all of their courses have a good amount of rigor of math, and so they're looking for that. Early action is another type of application deadline. These deadlines tend to be in November and January. You can actually apply to more than one. Those decisions are not binding. Some of them come out in December, but we're noticing that a lot of colleges are seeing more students apply early decision, which means it's taking longer for them to review applications. So those EA deadlines or those EA decisions now tend to come out in late December to January. For both ED and EA, students must be confident in their 11th grade grades. Colleges are not going to see their 12th grade grades. They're only going to see the courses the student is taking in their senior year. There's another one called priority. You will see this referenced at some colleges. Essentially what that means is submit your application by a certain date to be automatically considered for scholarships. The next one is regular decision. This is really where the majority of students are applying. These deadlines tend to be in January. Decisions are typically released in March or April. And then finally, some colleges are rolling admission. These deadlines vary, but essentially what rolling admission means is as students apply, the colleges are making decisions right then and sending them directly to students. So typically for rolling admissions, let's say their deadline is March 1st, we would probably encourage you to not wait until March 1st and apply a little bit earlier than that. I know that that's a lot of information about all of the different decision plans. Keep in mind that if you are a senior, your school counselor will be meeting with you within the first 2 months of school and can help you kind of navigate some of those things. And if you can't get to your school counselor right away, your career counselors are here to help you through that process. All right. So kind of exploring costs at different colleges. So one of the things you might hear of something called the cost of attendance. Again, I should point out money is not a very comfortable conversation, but it really is an important one for parents to have with students. On average, in the United States, college graduates carry about $100,000 in student debt, and it can take an average of 21 years to repay those loans. That doesn't have to be everyone's experience. So as you're navigating this process and researching colleges, look at what is the cost of attendance for a college. That means what's the tuition, housing, food, transportation. All of this information is required by law to be transparent on college websites. Also, there is something called a net price calculator. So you can go to a college's website, find their net price calculator, and estimate what would the cost of that college be for our family. Think about what can you reasonably afford, how much debt you're willing to take on, and again, discuss those finances before applying, not just in the spring of senior year when you have those decisions. You can estimate how much federal aid you may qualify. We'll send this presentation out, but there's a link to a federal aid estimator. And remember, we talked earlier about those different pathways to colleges. We have a lot of students who choose to go to either Richard Bland or go to Reynolds because that's a more affordable pathway. If they start, I think, don't quote me on this, but I want to say maybe 2 years at Reynolds is probably between $5,000 to $7,000 for those 2 years at Reynolds. And then a student can have a guaranteed transfer to a Virginia Public College. So that can be a smarter pathway for many families when cost is a big factor. I'll point this out. Every high school, if you aren't aware, has something called a GRASP representative. GRASP is a nonprofit organization in the Richmond area. We are very lucky that each of our 4 high schools has a GRASP representative that visits 1 day a week. You can meet with that GRASP representative and learn more about how to navigate the financial aid process. We'll also have someone available on Thursday at our expo as well. But tomorrow's session, you will get to hear a little bit more about that resource. And now I'm going to turn it back over to Jennifer Crowder, who's going to talk about, okay, we've given you all of this information. What exactly should you be doing right now?
Right. So as Ms. Melton said, you may be feeling a little overloaded by all of that information. And we understand that. Again, we are here to assist with all of any of your questions. But we want to make sure that you know kind of just how to organize yourself a little bit better. So you may be asking, what should you do now? And as Ms. Melton said before, we have some timelines that are listed on our website. And these are really just to be used as a guide. So here you can see, this is a look at a first semester for juniors, where it talks about kind of reflecting on your progress so far in high school, participating in the summer college and career expo, and then kind of reflecting on your strengths, your interests, and kind of what your aspirations are. And it lists through a lot of things. Again, this does not mean that if you are not at one of these steps that you are behind. This is really just to be used as a guide to assist you as you go through this process. So for seniors, here are some helpful tips to kick off kind of going into your senior year. And parents, if there are parents on this session, if you'd like to learn more about helping your student transition to adulthood, it's been mentioned before, I'm going to mention it again. We have a great session at Hanover High School at 9:30 on Thursday, right before the College and Career Expo, about helping your student transition. But one of the most important things that I think needs to be said, especially if there are parents on this session listening, students really need to drive this process. And that it can be hard for us as parents to kind of let go and let our children do this, but really this is their process. We are there to support and guide and advise, but all of the pieces of the college application, all of the things that need to be done really need to be done by the students. They must drive this process. Deadlines when it comes to college are firm. You know, there's no leeway when it comes to that, because if you think about it, they are getting a lot of applications and they are not going to consider applications if they're coming in late. So being organized, making sure you know the deadlines. If you need to have like a family calendar that's posted so you know when things are due, that might be something that'll help you, but really making sure that you stick to those deadlines. This is one that I think most people don't always consider, but you want to, if you don't already, you want to create an appropriate personal email for applications, for testing, for scholarships. I think I don't think I need to give an example of what would not be appropriate, but really just an appropriate email. You want to make sure you are not using your school email for applications and for scholarships, because that will go away. Once you graduate, you lose access to that email account. So you want to set up one now at the beginning of your senior year if you don't have one already, so that you can use that for all of your accounts. You can also start creating your accounts, as we've said before, the Common App, the Common Black College application, the FAFSA. You can create that one, but you're not going to start the application yet. All of the schools, the career counselors will be onboarding all of our students into school links. For our juniors and seniors, you all have been probably major clarity to death starting in middle school. I really think that you are going to like school links and all of the things that it'll offer you. It will make things much easier for you. Because you'll be able to add colleges to that list. You'll be able to link your common application and request transcripts through school links. And if you are a student who has a 504 or an IEP, before you graduate, you want to make sure that you have a copy of that plan so that you can take that to the college or university or school where you're going to be going, so that you can still have access to those accommodations. Some students are a little reluctant to do that, but if you think about it, if you have a plan that's put in place and these accommodations are there to kind of help level the playing field for you, you don't want to yank that rug out from underneath of you as you move on to the next step. So every school has an accessibility office, and you would take that plan that you have there, they would look at it and then kind of make that work within their within that school. So again, just another timeline for you. This is a senior timeline. Again, I'm going to emphasize that this is just a guide, so don't panic if you feel like you're not at one of these steps. There's time, and every student and every college is different. So again, this is just a guide to help you kind of figure out what you are interested in, kind of where you need to be or where you should be looking towards. And all of these are found on our website, the College and Career website. Again, this is just another part of the senior timeline, looking into September, so that you can kind of see. So some important tips. Again, this needs to be a student-driven process. Students, this is your future. So you really need to take control of that. Communicate. You're gonna be having those senior meetings in September and October. So communicate with your school counselor, have the conversation with your parents and guardians about what your interests are and what your plans are. We'll have several events throughout the year. We have this boot camp, we have senior nights, we'll have senior family nights, we'll have financial aid night. We will also have a college fair that'll be held at Atlee High School as well, which will have college representatives from all over that you can network with and get information from as well. Again, I cannot stress enough just how important deadlines are. Colleges, universities, businesses, scholarships, they are firm with those deadlines. And once you have that appropriate email, you want to make sure that you are checking it. And we do push out information through Schoology. We try not to push out too much information. One of the things I can tell for Patrick Henry, if there are any Patrick Henry students or parents on this, we do have the senior hub. We try to post information there as well, but things will be found on Schoology. So making sure that you have bookmarked that and that you are checking that. And again, last but not least, please ask for help. We are a community here to help you. We want to make sure that you are successful as you move on to your next steps. So there are no dumb questions. You are doing this for the first time. We have done this quite a bit. So we want to make sure that if there's any doubt, if there are any questions, that your school counselor, your career counselor, we can assist you in this process. So another resource, we're going to talk more about the financial aspect of college tomorrow. We're going to talk in depth about it. But we wanted to make you aware of this resource. So ECMC is a nonprofit corporation that provides services in support of higher education finance. They assist students and families in their effort to plan and pay for college. So each year they publish a book called the Opportunities book, and it's for Virginians, and it's published in both English and Spanish. And it is a great resource for the college process, including financial aid. So every year we have boxes of these. They're printed out. They are housed in the school counseling office. They're housed in the career counseling center. And if we do run out, you can also access this. We will have a PDF copy of this online so that you can access it as well. So even if you want to just go ahead and search ECMC Opportunities, you can go there as well. It's just another really great resource for you in this process. All right, so I see that we have had a few questions throughout in the chat. I'm gonna ask Ms. Melton and Ms. Couillard to go ahead and unmute as well. So if we can look at some of these questions and answer any, and if you have any, please go ahead and type them in. So I'm gonna go up to the top here to make sure that.
Thanks, everyone. I think the first question that we have is, it says, how do we know if accumulated college credit will transfer to chosen universities? I think this is really going to vary depending on the college or university. Again, the best place to go is to their website. At the end of the school year, I was actually working with a senior. We went to the college website where they're going to attend. They wanted to see if college comp, for example, would transfer. And so the best place to check is on the registrar section of that college or university website. You can put in the course and see. Mm-hmm. However, if you are going to a community college first, you actually will have an advisor at the community college that you can meet with, and they will help you determine which of your courses will transfer to the new college.
So I will add to this because I recognize the student who asked this question. If you're an ACA student who is already accumulating a multitude of college credits through the ACA program, you do have an on-campus advisor here with your ACA coordinator. They can assist as well, again, and also looking through the college. And if you're not sure where to find it, you can always reach out to your caseload counselor or career counselor as well.
The second question that I see is the one about guaranteed transfer. And I saw, Ms. Melton, that you copied and pasted in the chat the link to the guaranteed transfer. But most of you go to one of the community colleges websites and look, they'll have a transfer guide there, and you can click on the articulation agreements to see kind of the ins and outs of what each school will work with them. But essentially, Virginia Public Schools work with our Virginia community colleges. So they should do a transfer. It's just there's a lot of ins and outs as to what, like, you know, it might be a certain specific GPA that you have to have, or it may be that they keep a certain number of students from a certain field. So just make sure that you use your the resources there to make sure that you look over and know exactly what it is that students need in order to transfer in.
All right, so the next question says you start applying in November. Really, you want to kind of work backwards, looking at the schools that you're applying. You want to find out when their application deadlines are, and then kind of work backwards, allowing yourself enough time to get letters of recommendation if needed from either teachers or counselors. Kind of the best rule of thumb when it comes to letters of recommendation is giving them at least 2 weeks, and you want to make sure that you ask prior to sending them a link or the information. It's always best practice. It's polite to ask a teacher, ask a counselor to write a letter, if they would be willing to write a letter of recommendation for you, and allowing them at the minimum at least 2 weeks to get that in. So you kind of, like I said, you kind of want to work backwards from whatever deadline that you need. But applications will be open. You know, as we said, Common App opens August 1st. So allowing yourself enough time to work through all of the pieces of the application. All right, let's see. See what's
Ms. Melton, did you want to take the one about ED and EA?
I can. So the next question is, when you apply for early decision or early action, will they check the quarter grades and the GPA? In general, no. I have found that sometimes more selective colleges, typically the ones outside of the state of Virginia that tend to be private selective colleges, they might ask for quarter grades to see them. But in general, you should assume that if you're applying early decision 1 or early action 1, that colleges will not see any grades from senior year.
And just a reminder that our GPAs don't update until after the whole first semester. So even if a student does really well first quarter, their GPA won't change as a result of that until at the end of the semester.
All right,
So.
I kind of weeded down, and the question was, will my counselor write me a college recommendation even if we've not communicated much? So again, your counselor will be meeting with you at the very beginning of the year. That's a great time to sit down and talk with them about that. Every school kind of handles the letter of recommendation differently. I can tell you at Patrick Henry, there's a form that our counselors request that you fill out if you need a letter of recommendation, and it gives them some information. But being proactive with this is best practice. So if you need a letter of recommendation from your school counselor, and you're not sure that you have kind of established that relationship, I would recommend making an appointment pretty much at the beginning of school and sitting down with your counselor so that they are aware that you would need this. You can kind of have a conversation so that they can get that. But they will not write you a letter of recommendation unless you ask for one, and if it's required.
I think there had been a previous question just about the ASVAB, and that's an armed services assessment. And that's something that students take or anyone takes before they want to enlist in the military. More information is included on our college and career website for that, if you'd like to research a little bit more.
The question was, you mentioned Patrick Henry has a senior hub. Does Atlee have this?
We do not currently. I just responded to Nick saying that, and hi Nick. I responded to him saying that we're going to use Schoology and Parent Square the same as we have in the past. If we discover that Parent Square isn't helpful, or if things aren't getting communicated well, we can certainly look into doing something different, but we do not have a plan at the moment to have a senior hub at Atlee, other than using Parent Square, which will be new to you all this year, and sends out text messages in addition to just your regular emails. So I think, as a parent right now, I'm receiving them, and it's made it much easier for me to stay connected with what's going on. So hopefully that will be all that we need. But if we find that we need something different, we're certainly open to talking about it.
I think the next question is there a resource or a website of some sort that helps with applying to military academies? The best place to go is actually going to be to each service academy's website. They will walk you through each step of what you need to do. There might be some variation depending on the service academy, but their websites are the best places to start.
And then I noticed somebody asked if the counselors are in the offices now. Yes, all counselors are back. They're working on getting schedules ready for all of our students. So it may be a little bit of a delay. If you reach out, just be understanding that they have a short deadline coming up to get all of your the kids' schedules ready for this school year. But yes, they are back in the office. And then there was another question about military academies. And I think that each of the academies themselves have their own websites. I'm not sure. I'm not familiar with if there's a website that's good for all the academies outside of just each individual academy.
All right. So the next question says, do we declare a major once we get into college, or does it need to be linked to our essay? So that's going to vary. You can go into college undecided. Now there are some schools that are very specific that you would have to declare a major. But I'll be honest, I use myself as an example all the time. I changed my major 5 times in college before I settled on it. And that was only after my father said, for the love of God, pick a major. You do not have to declare, and you don't have to put it in your essay. You can talk about, if you're uncertain what you want to do, you can put that in your essay and just talk about the want to kind of explore opportunities. Now, it does help to kind of maybe know a direction that you want to go in or something that you want to study in the college selection choice. That does help narrow things down. But no, you do not have to. And once you get into college, most places you can absolutely change your major. And in some instances, colleges won't let you declare a major until after your sophomore year. So it's just something to research as you're looking at each school.
And I would say sometimes for schools, so for JMU, for example, you do not need to declare a major. At Virginia Tech, you don't necessarily need to declare a major, but when you apply, you're not applying to Virginia Tech. You're applying to a smaller college within Virginia Tech that has many majors. So again, like Ms. Crowder said, having some general idea of what you might want to study would be wise, depending on the college and what they require. But again, that's a great question when you're visiting colleges and doing your research to try and answer.
All right, so then the next question is when are our class ranks going to be mailed out? So we don't mail out class rank. Class rank will be run once all summer school grades are in, once all of they do a kind of a transcript cleanup, making sure that everything looks good. Rank will be run. I don't have a specific date, but it's usually typically September that it's run. And then the way you'll be able to access that is you will be able to request a transcript, a self-view transcript, and you can see it there. And I don't know that it shows in Power School for seniors, but you can, and if you have questions about that, you can always talk to your school counselor.
And there's a question about the number of recommendations affecting the chances of getting into college or not. I would say the answer to that is it's dependent upon the college. So you just want to make sure that you meet the requirement, if you will, of the college. So some colleges do require letters of recommendation. Some colleges do not require them, and other colleges will not accept them. So just do your research to make sure that whichever college you're applying to either needs one, wants one, whatever, and then don't send more than what they will accept. And they will tell you. So Virginia Tech, for example, they're going to throw your recommendation in the trash. There's no need to send it there. They don't use recommendations. James Madison will only look at one. So there's no need to send them 3. They're going to pick the one that they like. They're just going to pick one and look at it. So you want to send them 1. Other schools may say you can have up to 3. So you don't want to send 4 because then you're not following directions. So it just depends on the school. And then how much the recommendation weighs into the decision making is really kind of school dependent. But if you remember back to the graphic that Ms. Melton showed, was Melton, right? Yes. Ms. Melton showed that, it's your grades in your class. Those are the big things that the recommendation is helpful, but is not going to be, the reason that you don't get in if you don't have a lot of recommendations. We understand, colleges understand that counselors have 300 plus kids on their caseloads and may not know kids as well, certain kids as well as others. So don't worry too much about it. Just make sure that you're following the directions that they give to you. Okay. And it looks like that's our last question. I guess we'll give everybody just a hot second to jump on here. And if there's any more questions before we wrap up, we've gone a long time today. It will not be as long any of the other days. So we apologize for those of you that didn't anticipate being a part of this for quite as long, and the rest of the days will be much shorter.
So we're going to take just again a quick reminder looking ahead for this week. Tuesday we have at 10 a.m. it is virtual, the financial aid and scholarship presentation with our GRASP representatives. GRASP is the nonprofit organization that partners with all of the high schools in the greater Richmond area So they will be joining us. We'll have a representative tomorrow joining us to answer and talk about any burning questions that you may have about financial aid. On Wednesday, we are very fortunate to have a college admissions representative from Christopher Newport University, who's going to be talking about the college essay, what they're looking for, tips and do's and don'ts regarding that. And then we cap off the rest of the week on Thursday with two in-person sessions at Hanover High School. One is the parent session called Transition to Adulthood, and the other is the Common Application Workshop for seniors. You will need your Chromebook if you do want to attend that, and both of those are at 9:30. And then we have our 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. College and Career Expo at Hanover High School as well in their comments. So thank you so much for joining us. I think the one question is that last question I saw is, will there be a way to access the information at Hanover High School if you can't attend in person? Those will not be recorded, but again, we'll have those resources available on our website. And again, you can always reach out to either your school counselor or your career counselor. All right, well, thank you all so much for joining us today, and we hope to see you the rest of the week.
Bye.
Bye.